What's going on, everyone? My name is Brandon. If you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. This is a video I've been wanting to do for a long time. I've just been too nervous to do it because I have yet to make a video where I'm just sitting here talking to you about my thoughts, like original content, so to speak. But I'm currently snowed in with nothing better to do, so I figured, what the hell, it's time. I just started talking and then I realized that I wasn't wearing a hat, and you guys who know me know that that's not gonna happen. A conversation I constantly find myself having in regard to Kingdom Hearts is what the future of Final Fantasy is gonna look like in it. Community's kind of divided after Kingdom Hearts 3. Some people think that Final Fantasy is not gonna show up as much or at all anymore because we have a full cast of Kingdom Hearts original characters that can pretty much lead the show, and that side of the argument pretty much is saying that they were Final Fantasy was only there in the first place to kind of kick things off. Whether that's true or not is a different discussion that I'm not going to get into right now. While the other side will debate that Kingdom Hearts is the combination of Disney and Final Fantasy together. It's a mashup. It's what it's always been. I'm more inclined to go along those lines, but regardless of where you stand on that, it's always fun to just, have a conversation, speculate who could show up in the future. A few things I just need to point out before I get into the video. This is going to be a top 10 style, not necessarily top 10 people I think are most likely to get in, but more so 10 people that I just thought would be fun to talk about, and that I do realistically think can get into the game. And then also there's a few characters I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about majority of the characters who have already been in the franchise. I'm not going to talk about the Restoration Committee. I do fully believe that Leon, Yuffie, Aerith, and Cid are all going to return, but I don't feel like that's worth talking about. They've been around since the first game. They've been integral characters. They've been just as main supporting cast as anyone else. I think they'll be back. Whenever we go back to Radiant Garden, they'll be there. And then the other character I'm not going to talk about, because this person warrants their own video, is Noctis from Final Fantasy 15. With everything going on with Riku and Yozora and Unreality and all of the Final Fantasy Versus 13 influences that we're seeing moving into this new saga, there is way too much to unpack there for just this video. So all that's being said, let's jump into it. For the first two spots, I thought I would give them to the characters who I think realistically are the most likely to get into Kingdom Hearts. Looking at all of the characters who have been in previously, who have had more main status, they're pretty much all fan favorite characters, right? We have Cloud, Leon, Yuffie, Cid, you had Auron, everyone loves Vivi. A lot of characters that a lot of people love. So on that note, my first spot has to go to Lightning, Final Fantasy 13. Beyond just the fact that Lightning seems to be Square's love child, like they seem to think that Lightning is the best thing that they've ever created ever. Okay, I guess. And even though 13 has some mixed reception, there is a lot of hype behind the community for Kingdom Hearts towards Lightning coming into the series. Back in, I think it was 2012, this image surfaced. This was a fan-made render that someone made towards Kingdom Hearts 3, but it went crazy. Everyone was really excited for Lightning to get in. Myself included. And then even beyond just sheer popularity factor, there is also something that I'm going to bring up a couple more times throughout this video, and that's Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. Something in that game that gets criminally underused, I don't think has really been properly used yet actually, is the fact that everything happening in Union Cross is supposed to be images of the future. Like when they're running through the Disney worlds, they're going through worlds of the future, right? From the power of the Book of Prophecies. Emblem Heartless don't exist yet. That's the future. The medals are borrowed power from the future, and that's exactly my point. The fact that Final Fantasy characters exist in Union Cross is proof that they exist in the future. For the most part, the medals we see are Leon, Cloud, Sephiroth, etc., but we also have Lightning. She's the only odd one out. I might be reaching with this one, but this is a plot point that I've really, ever since we've known about it, wanted them to pay off, and Lightning feels like perfect payoff. If they're teasing us for her popping up in the future, that would be amazing, and I think it's totally possible. For number 2, I'm going to give the spot to Zidane, Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy IX is one of the more popular Final Fantasy games that doesn't have a whole lot of representation. It has Vivi, and that's it. Zidane would be pretty cool. That's about the extent of my opinion. I haven't finished Final Fantasy IX yet, so I don't have a whole lot to say in terms of where he could pop up or how he could pop up. But if they could find a world where they can use Sora's original design, throw Zidane in there, and have them meet each other, that would be sick. That's a thought I can't get out of my mind whenever I talk about this. And if they can find a way to keep using Olympus, I know it's been in pretty much every Kingdom Hearts game ever. I think there was one. I digress. If they could find a way to keep Olympus, That would be a perfect place for either Lightning or Zidane. Bring the cups back, please. And then beyond that, the same thing as Lightning, there's a lot of hype from community for Zidane to get into the game eventually. I don't think there's as much as Lightning, but there is a large amount of people who would like Zidane in. And this goes for both Lightning and Zidane. Square, if they've proven anything with Kingdom Hearts, is good at listening to us as a fan base. If you disagree with me, I would just say look at the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC. We asked for critical mode, they gave us critical mode. We complained about no Final Fantasy characters, they gave us Final Fantasy characters. We complained about lack of playable characters, the Keyblade Graveyard, they gave it to us. So many complaints that were there about Kingdom Hearts 3 were fixed in the DLC. I feel like they've proven that they listen to us. So on that same note, if these are our most wanted characters, I feel like most likely one of them will get in. Number 3, this is going to be the only number that I talk about returning characters, and that goes to Cloud and Sephiroth and putting these two together. Short and simple, we need to see their story finish. We never get unfinished story in Kingdom Hearts. It doesn't happen. Things come up that we don't even know are going to be story. Like, at some point, I'm convinced 100% that they will return and we'll see them finish. Now, that being said about stories needing to finish, there's one Final Fantasy character that we need in Kingdom Hearts at some point. That character goes towards finishing Leon's story, and that is Rinoa from Final Fantasy VIII. Quick refresh for anyone who needs it on Leon. His real name is Squall. This is his name in Final Fantasy VIII, and it's also his name in Kingdom Hearts. If you recall, in Traverse Town, first time we meet him, Kingdom Hearts 1, Yuffie calls him by Squall, he corrects her to Leon. That's because when Radiant Garden falls to darkness, and turns into Hollow Bastion, Cid takes Leon and Yuffie and Aerith, and they escape to safety to Traverse Town. Leon blames himself for not being able to stand up stronger and protect his homeworld. Because of that, he takes on the identity of Leon. And you'll remember at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, he gets this letter. That letter he receives is from Rinoa. The butterfly that comes out of it is supposed to signal to us that that's the case. To be more specific, those butterfly wings are meant to be interpreted as angel wings. Or at least that's the way that we took it. It's not officially confirmed, there was no interview about that or anything, but it makes sense, right? So to me, most logically, when the Restoration Committee is no longer needed and Radiant Garden is up to its former glory, that's when Rinoa will come back and Leon will reclaim his identity. That part may not be accurate, it could happen differently, but she does need to show up at some point. Leon's story needs to conclude. Moving into number 5, now I'm going to talk about my personal most desired characters, and this spot goes to Balthier and Fran, Final Fantasy XII. I don't particularly think these two are realistic, but I thought it'd be fun to talk about anyway. And these two share a spot similar to Cloud and Sephiroth. It's just one spot because they're a package deal. If you played Final Fantasy XII, you understand. Final Fantasy XII is a game that was ahead of its time on the PS2, and with the release of the Zodiac Age a few years ago, the game's more popular now than it's ever been. It's my personal favorite Final Fantasy. There's two big reasons why I would love to see this duo make it into Kingdom Hearts. First off, they're sky pirates. If you're unfamiliar with them, that's their thing. They travel around on their airship as sky pirates. They're thieves. So something that I thought would make for a super unique subplot is throw them in the game. Put them in a world like Radiant Garden or Traverse Town, some original base location first where it makes sense where we can meet them. And then later in the game, we see them popping up in a bunch of worlds. Maybe they pop up in a couple Disney worlds, their plot can end in another original location, and they're traveling the worlds doing their thing, being sky pirates or whatever the Kingdom Hearts equivalent would be. You definitely have them in the game that Treasure Planet becomes a world. A couple of sky pirates stealing from Treasure Planet? Come on. Their relationship with Sora would be really interesting because on the surface they probably seem like bad guys. They are not bad guys, let me lay that out clear. If you haven't played the game, they are very much good guys. But their relationship with Sora would be really interesting to see. Would it be rocky the whole time? Would it start off good, go down, and go back up again? Like, there's a bunch of different ways that could play out. The other reason I'd be interested in seeing these two come into Kingdom Hearts is the opportunity to explore how people who don't use gummy ships, who aren't Keyblade Masters, and who don't use Corridors of Darkness travel from world to world. Realistically, Balthier and Fran would probably have a gummy ship for story's sake, but the airship is a big part of what gave me the idea of them popping up in the series in the first place. We have a bunch of instances through Kingdom Hearts where we see characters in worlds where they don't belong with no explanation for how they got there. We have Zack and Cloud popping up in Olympus. How did Stitch get from deep space to Radiant Garden? Did he go to Hawaii in the middle? Is Hawaii connected to Radiant Garden? That's a whole other can of worms that I just realized that I opened on myself. Huh, it's gonna kill me now not knowing about Hawaii. How did Monstro end up just chilling in space? What makes Captain Hook's ship so special that it can just chill in space? Where the Gullwings from Cloud and Sephiroth get from wherever they're from to Olympus in the first place? These are just the examples I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's more. But we know for a fact it is possible to travel from world to world without Corridors of Darkness or a Gummy Ship or a Keyblade. We see this in Birth by Sleep with Mickey's Star Shard. We see this in Kingdom Hearts 1 when Beast travels to Hollow Bastion simply by following Belle's heart. Why is that possible? Probably due to her being a Princess of Heart, but getting off point. At some point, I just really want to explore these questions about how characters who don't have established means of transportation do it, and I feel like Balthier and Fran would be a really neat way of approaching that. Now for number 6, this one's a little out there, but a conversation I would love to have is Gilgamesh showing up as a secret boss. Gilgamesh, if you're unfamiliar, is an antagonist that is recurring throughout many Final Fantasy games. His whole thing is that he steals weapons, right? He steals these famous weapons from other characters. So in Kingdom Hearts, you can have him either stealing Final Fantasy characters' weapons who have already shown up in the franchise, or you can have him stealing Keyblades. They can be real, they can be fake, that doesn't matter so much. I think more realistically they would be fake, and that's also a plot we see him follow through with in Final Fantasy XII. All of his weapons were fake, so that wouldn't be anything new. Or you could have him with a combination. He could have both Final Fantasy weapons and Keyblades, and he could be after Sora for the sole purpose of trying to get a real one. Similar to how in Kingdom Hearts 2 when Sephiroth says maybe the Keyblade will change its mind when I defeat you, but actually have that plot play full out. Like, that's Gilgamesh's whole thing. Like I mentioned earlier with Lightning, with Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, Gilgamesh is actually in that game. He pops up as the Weapon Master. Sorry, no, he's on this side. I just don't know what I'm doing yet. He gets added every now and then as a special quest. You beat him, you get a bunch of special rewards, but the point I'm trying to make is that he's in there. And like I mentioned earlier, everything that happens in Union Cross is supposed to be visions of the future. What that tells me is Gilgamesh exists in Kingdom Hearts canon. Will he pop up? I don't know. I would love him to. I think that would make for an incredible secret boss fight. For these last 4 characters, I don't really have as much to say as I have for everyone else so far. This is more just open speculation. For spots 7, 8, and 9, the thing that all 3 of them have in common is that they're all going to be from Final Fantasy VII. The first one being Vincent Valentine. We know from Kingdom Hearts 1, Papa Nomura had an interest in bringing Vincent in. Instead, they opted to go with Cloud and gave him Vincent's attire. But Vincent is still very loved by fans. He's a really cool character. He has an awesome design. Dirge Cerberus was a really good game. And I feel like if Nomura wanted to use him, he probably still does. We tend to see very often things that he wanted to do in the past play off later down the line. We saw it with Toy Story, we're seeing it now with Final Fantasy Versus 13. To go a step further from that, maybe we see Vincent pop up wherever Cloud and Sephiroth end up. We could get an explanation for why Cloud looks the way he does in Kingdom Hearts 1. He had probably had a relationship with Vincent. Just spitballing. I think there's a likelihood that if he had a genuine interest in using Vincent, we could see him pop up. Number 8 and number 9, as I mentioned, are both from Final Fantasy VII, but these ones I don't really have anything substantial to say other than that they're from the game. Final Fantasy VII is in massive popularity right now due to the remake. I'm giving number 8 to Barrett. He's pretty much the only one out of the main cast that we don't have in the game yet, unless you want to count Jesse. Don't have much to say for Barrett. Other than that, he's a beloved Final Fantasy VII character. I don't personally need more 7 representation, although I wouldn't complain about Vincent. If anyone's going to come in from that game, Barrett's pretty likely, I think. Number 9 would be more of a wild card. To contradict what I just said about not needing more 7 representation, Red 13 would be so cool to see in Kingdom Hearts. I have no idea how they pull it off, which is why I'm saying it's a wild card. Maybe if eventually we get to go to Cloud and Sephiroth's homeworld, maybe we see Red 13 there. Maybe Red 13 is a character that exists in unreality. I don't know, throwing it in here as a wild card. Final Fantasy VII always gets all of the love everywhere from everything and everyone, so why not? And for number 10, this one is also going to be a bit of a wild card and is another one I don't have a ton to say about, but I thought I'd chuck it in here anyway, see if anyone has any opinions on it, and that is the Warrior of Light from Final Fantasy I. Ever since Final Fantasy Dissidia made its way to PlayStation 4 in 2015, I feel like the Warrior of Light has been in more of a spotlight than it has been in a long time. I might be wrong about that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like he's just been used more in a lot. Maybe he's always been used plenty, but from what I can tell, he's been getting better treatment lately. He's also another character who is in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, so going by the same logic from earlier, it implies he exists. As far as the story goes, there's a million things it could be. The concept of someone called the Warrior of Light in Kingdom Hearts, the story writes itself. Something like that would be really interesting to see. I feel like Unreality is also a perfect space for him to exist. And as an honorable mention, I thought I'd throw in one last one just for fun, and that is the Chocobo, generic bird boy. We do know that Chocobos exist, or at least the image of Chocobos, as we see it as a cave drawing on Destiny Islands in Kingdom Hearts 1. We also have it as accessories in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. Honorable mention to the Chocobos. That's all I got for you guys for today. Let me know what you thought, if you agreed with any of the characters, if there's anyone you can think of that I missed. Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, like, subscribe. I'm going to be trying to put out more Kingdom Hearts content like this. I also stream a lot of Kingdom Hearts on my Twitch, link will be in the description, along with the link to my Discord if you'd like to join. We're always looking for more Kingdom Hearts players. And somewhere on the screen will be links to my cover of Simple and Clean, and me unboxing the Super Groupie shoes of Riku and Axel if you want to check that out. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.